What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Bill, and in today's video we've got a new Bronco in the garage. Well, it's new to me. It's Dave's Bronco here. He's from up there in Jasper, not too far away from us. He's got a 2022 Badlands non-Sasquatch, he said. And this thing is pretty, just like most Broncos. I really like this color. It's one of those colors that I didn't really see in person until after I ordered, and it definitely would have been a contender for one of the colors that I chose. But what he brought it over here for is we've got some mud flaps. Muslogy, I think I'm finally saying it right, had sent over. They said, hey, we send you some mud flaps. You want to check them out? And I said, sure thing, no problem. I'll check them out. And then after they sent them, they sent me the installation instructions, and I realized I cannot install them. In order to be installed, you have to have the rear crash bar, because it installs on a bar that goes into these two bolts, which, if you've seen previous videos, I've cut that off. I'll put a link to that up in the corner. And if you have a Sasquatch, I've seen some Sasquatches that, yes, they don't have the crash bar, and some of them only have one of these bolts, not both of them. So if you do have a Sasquatch, it might not work. It might or it might not. Just double check that you have both of those bolt holes there before you order. So with all that said, thank you, Dave, for bringing this by, and we're going to go ahead, try to get it installed and see what it looks like. The installation seems pretty simple, and here are the mud flaps. They're pretty sturdy. Once everything's mounted up, they are, you can do a quick release, like if you're going off-road, which it looks like somebody's been doing. That you can do a quick release to take them off, so you're not rubbing them and hitting them up against things while you're on the trail. But then when you're ready to hit the road, just screw them back in real quick and you're good to go. So we'll see how well that works. So first thing, we need to take the fender flare off. If you haven't done it before, the first time it sounds a little yeah, it doesn't sound good. You're like, oh, what just happened to my car? But it's perfectly fine. And it's going to be these two we need to pop out, and then we'll go from there. So let's pop those off.
Does it help to use one of those body panel pry tools?
The
fork ones, I think.
Yeah, normally to take these off, if you use a Phillips head and just back them out very, very lightly, they're fine. 90% of the time, just kind of, but you have to be super loose with it, because any pressure will just push it right back in. It just goes into these small tabs, like there.
Yeah. And
so you gotta be careful, because that metal's not very strong. So if you're trying to pry it, then you just end up bending that tab.
Yeah.
Okay, so quick update. You need to take out these two pins, which are on this one big tab, and then you got one for the top hole and one for the bottom hole, and that's just going to go and slide over that. Now we're going to take our bracket, two 10mm screws, and line those up. Helps when it's kind of actually lined up. There we go. Now it's lined up. Shouldn't have been that hard to get lined up, but apparently it was. And it's got a Phillips head, or you can do 10mm. You want to make sure it's snug, but don't want to over tighten it, because it's just that aluminum or that thin metal that you're screwing into. So you could easily strip that out. So just make sure it's nice and snug. Now we got to remove these two bolts, which are 13 millimeter, I think, 15 millimeter. So remove these two 15 millimeter bolts. We're taking these two bolts out. We're just going to set this plate in over top and put the bolts right back in. As I said, this is going to be the main support for the mud flap. So if you don't have both of these bolts, then this may not be the solution for you. Non-Sasquatch is your best bet, or Sasquatch, make sure that you have both of these bolts. And then we just tighten those back down. So one thing I ignored is this Muslogy auto little bag that was in with this. Apparently they also included all the tools you would need. A pry tool, 10 millimeter, and the 15 millimeter. So if you had no tools, they actually provided you with everything you needed to in a little toolbox. That's nice of them. But now, I mean, really that's all there is to do the install, is this bracket here and that one there. So yeah, it's 1, 2, 3. So you're gonna have 3 thumb screws for this side. And the flap should just kind of slide right into place. And then these 2 holes down here. Line up with these bottom ones on the bottom bracket. And then one for this top bracket. And that's it. They're on there. Now you can put the fender flare back on. You don't have to take the fender flare off now. Anytime you want to take these off, you just unscrew the thumb screws. And then they also included a storage bag. So if you're going off-roading, you don't want to scrape these, mess these up, undo the thumb screws, throw them in your little pouch, throw them in the back, and you're good to go. Let's throw the fender flare back on there and see how it looks with everything put together. And there we go with the fender on, or fender flare on. Now the fender flare is a little dusty, so the plastics don't quite match up right now because this is clean and this is a little dusty. But if you have the factory step on there, it fits no problem and lines up pretty good. Get a look from the rear here. Now they do offer a full set with rear flaps as well. They just sent the front ones, which I think most people, that's what they're concerned about, is the front flaps, just to try to help keep things off their paint. All right, so there we go. Both sides are complete. They're on there. It didn't take us that long to do the second side as well. You notice it's a little darker than it was. We did some forescan stuff and got rid of his double honk. And
Sport mode.
Oh yeah, it's like, what was the whole reason? I put sport mode on his Badlands, so we took care of that while he was over here. But yeah, these mud flaps, they install pretty easily. I mean, the hardest thing is probably the muscle it takes to get those 2 bolts off of there. And but I mean, it's not hard. It's 2 bolts and then those 2 screws, and then it's on there. You got the thumb screws to take them off. I think it's pretty simple. If you're looking for a simple mud flap solution, I would check them out. If you have Sasquatch though, double check to make sure that you have both those bolts down there so you can actually mount them. But other than that, I think it's a done deal. And I appreciate you watching. I think thank you, Dave, for bringing it by and letting us do the install, because I couldn't do it on mine. And I appreciate you coming by, and thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.